Welcome to the data overview for Kemp Elementary School. My name is Rachel Lake and I will be leading this presentation today. The purpose of this presentation is to review changes in demographics at Kemp Elementary, analyze student achievement on the ELA portion of the Georgia milestones compared to the district, utilize ongoing data analysis to determine improvement areas in the English Language Arts area, and identify strengths and weaknesses in ELA instruction at Kemp Elementary School. Before we get started, I want you to consider a couple of questions as we go through the data. What are the current strengths of our ELA instruction? What are current weaknesses for our ELA instruction? What can teachers do to ensure all students are receiving the highest quality ELA instruction? How can ELA teachers use data to evaluate progress? What can we do for learners who are not mastering the ELA material? And what can we do for learners who need to be extended in their learning in order to move them to the next learner level? Let's first talk about the CCRPI. What exactly is this number that we keep hearing about? According to the Georgia DOE, the CCRPI is a comprehensive school improvement, accountability, and communication platform for all educational stakeholders that will promote college and career readiness for all Georgia public school students. This is the assessment program that took the place of the No Child Left Behind Act. It assesses schools in 4 different categories: content mastery, progress, closing gaps, and readiness. Let's take a look at this comparison between Kemp, the district, Cobb County, and the state of Georgia. As you can see, Kemp consistently scores well above both the county and the state on the CCRPI. Most of the scores, or all of the scores, are into the 90s. As you can see, there was a slight dip from the year 2017 to 2018, but the assessment did change in 2018. So really the scores before that time are not comparable to the scores from 2018 onward. Let's take a look at Kemp's CCRPI data by category. I will only be comparing scores from 2018 and 2019 because, as I just mentioned, the assessment changed in 2018 and we want truly meaningful scores. The first category is content mastery. This relies upon test scores and it measures how the students are mastering the state standards. As you can see in the graph, we did show a slight increase in our score from a 97.9 to a 98.4 with about a half a point increase. For the progress, this shows growth, achievement growth of particular students. So this will measure a student compared to other students at their level to see their growth. We did see a good amount of growth with this, with a 2.4 increase from 2018 to 2019. The closing gaps category is where we showed the most amount of growth. We showed an 8.9 point growth from 2018 to 2019. This is where it shows closing the achievement gap between our subgroups such as ELL, students with disabilities, and those who are economically disadvantaged. We will be looking deeper into these scores and test results throughout the presentation, so keep an eye out for those. The last category that we are going to look at is the readiness category. This assesses student literacy rates, as well as activities beyond the course, such as fine arts, foreign languages, and physical education. We showed a slight decrease of about 0.2 of a point. Let's take a closer look at the faculty at Kemp Elementary. As you can see, most teachers have 11 to 20 years of experience, with a large increase in teachers with 21 to 30 years of experience in the 2018-2019 school year. Many teachers remain at the school, which allows for the experience of teachers to increase over time. If we look at the teacher demographics at Kemp Elementary, you see that the majority of the teachers are white, which is very similar to the population of students that we teach. You can also see that the graph does not change much over several years. And this is going back to what I said before about how many of the teachers stay the entire time. So these are the same teachers having the same data. You can see the dip in the 2018-2019 school year, and that is where we lost some allotments. Another big thing to note is that we had a Hispanic teacher. She did our foreign language, our Spanish class, and we lost that allotment. So we went from having one Hispanic teacher to not having one at all. Keep that in mind as we go through the data. Let's take a look at student enrollment. As you can see, the student enrollment dropped significantly between the 2015-2016 school year to the 2016-2017 school year and has slowly made its way back up. They have been building more neighborhoods in the area, which can be showing more of that student enrollment. If we look at our transiency rate compared with Cobb County, we see that our transiency rate is still much lower than the county's transiency rate. However, the county's transiency rate has remained fairly stable, whereas our mobility rate has increased fairly significantly, about 2% higher from the 2017-2018 school year to the 2018-2019 school year. If we take a look at student demographics, we see that over the past couple of years, we have an increase in the percent of school population in the economically disadvantaged, our EIP population, our gifted population, as well as our students with disabilities. The only subgroup category that we saw a decrease in the percentage of students was our ELL category, and that came from a large percentage of our ELL students graduating from the 5th grade in the last year. If we take a look at the ELA milestone results by demographic, we are comparing Kemp's results for the 2018 and 2019 school year. You can see that we increased the percentage of Black students achieving at a distinguished learner level, and we also increased the proficient learners in our Black students. Multiracial students also showed a higher percentage of distinguished learners. We saw a slight drop in the Asian level 4 learners and an increase in the level 1 or beginning for our Hispanic learners. When we look at the 2019 ELA results comparison between Kemp Elementary School and Cobb County School, Kemp shows significantly more distinguished learners and significantly less beginning learners, especially when comparing our Black and Hispanic student population. You can see in both the county and the school that the Hispanic population shows a largest portion of beginning learners. When we look at the ELA milestone results by subgroup, we see that they did not change overly much between the 2018 testing year and the 2019 testing year. One thing that we do notice is that while our distinguished learners increased in 2 of the 3 subgroups, our beginning learners also increased in 3 of the 3 subgroups. This shows that in the subgroups there are your haves and your have-nots, whereas the majority of the students will fall in the proficient and developing learner range. When we compare the subgroups to the Cobb County subgroups, we see that we have a much larger portion of distinguished learners within the subgroups, as well as a much smaller portion of our students in subgroups falling under the beginning learner range. This shows that Kemp Elementary is providing the support that these students need, and we need to continue to see what we can do to make these learners even more successful. Let's take a look at attendance by race and ethnicity at Kemp. The graph shows that our Hispanic students are more likely to miss more than 10% of enrolled days. This subgroup had over 2% more students miss over 10% of their enrolled days than the next group with the highest absences, the multiracial. This is important to note as their success rate on the ELA milestone shows the biggest percentage of beginning learners. Missed school days detract from a student's learning experience. Overall, Kemp has a 98% attendance rate for the 2018-2019 school year. Let's go ahead and revisit the graph about the CCRPI by category. The readiness covers a Lexile cut score that students must achieve in order to get the readiness score. Let's go ahead and take a look at our student results. In 2017 and 2018 school year, white students had the highest percentile reaching this Lexile score, while Black, economically disadvantaged, ELL, and students with disability subgroups showed a weakness. These subgroups have a harder time reading at a Lexile that points to student future success and career readiness. When we take a look at the 2018-2019 literacy readiness graph, we see that our economically disadvantaged students and our Black students did show a substantial amount of progress. However, our Hispanic population's success rate dropped dramatically by about over 4%. The multiracial group dropped almost 8%. The white group dropped almost 5%. And the ELL and students with disabilities both dropped almost 2.5 to 3% drop. This is where our readiness score dropped from the 2018-2019 school year. Let's go ahead and talk about the strengths of our school. We showed substantial growth in the achievement gap section of the CCRPI. We closed literacy gaps for the Black and economically disadvantaged students. We are high performing on the milestones compared to both the county and the state. We have highly experienced and qualified teachers, and the CCRPI score is consistently higher than the county and the state scores. Some of the weaknesses that we saw is that we saw an increase in the beginning learners or the level 1 learners on the ELA milestones for the Hispanic students. The CCRPI readiness Lexile levels dropped for Hispanic, multiracial, white, and student with disabilities. The economically disadvantaged, the ELL, and the student with disabilities consistently scored a Lexile level below the CCRPI readiness compared to other students. Next steps. Here are some questions to help guide our conversation on how we can improve the instruction at our school. How can we increase Lexile levels on the milestones? How can we continue to close achievement gaps for our subgroups? How can we best support our Hispanic students to increase their achievement on the ELA milestone? And lastly, how can we use ongoing data collection to improve our instruction and lead to better test results?